First off, most dramas have a linear narrative with a sort of a medicine at the end where you're supposed to feel good or feel bad or some kind of solution. And I loved how this movie portrays life as is, whereas someone's grief, trauma, memory of someone is part of their daily existence. It's just the way it is. And that's how we process things, our lives. Can you guys speak to that element of this movie? And was that, so yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think you nailed it.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of it too, is that there's nothing kind of reflective about the movie or about, having performed it. There's nothing reflective about the performance. It's very current, it's very present, it's very here then not here, but missed or being enjoyed. It's being tasted or missed at any given moment. And sometimes those things, it's like the rug gets pulled out from under you, or then, the comfiest cushion gets put back underneath you. So it's very experiential. There's nothing like, until a certain point, there's nothing that's in the past that needs to be kind of remembered or reflected upon or experienced. It's all happening in real time, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the fact that, Stacky and I are old theater kids, and Daniel, our my co-writer and co-director for the film, is also a theater person. And part of what I think we love in making art is making something that is an experience, and I think part of what we're lacking sometimes with our conversation about loss or about trauma or about pain is that liquidity, that sort of, you're up and you're breathing, and then a wave comes and takes you back under. And like, that's just the course of the day. It feels like right now in the world. And we wanted to tell a story and make a story that championed how brave that is. Just to get through the day is such an epic feat of endurance and strength of the heart. So we wanted to sort of, instead of building a proper, here we go up the mountain and then we learn the lesson and it comes to a close. You're like, no, we are in the soup of what it is to be a human, and that deserves a cheer.
Yeah, it does deserve a cheer. That said, I'm going to be the devil's advocate, Sam. Yeah, you and Daniel, I know you're artists, you're experienced, going up the mountain and giving the message gets more of a wider swath. Can you just talk about that sacrifice of just saying, oh, we're going to reach the world, like as opposed to reaching the boat in the sea, which is the analogy. But you guys decide to go for the boat because you really, you and your troupe, you really want to actually engage people into cinema and life. Can you just talk about those two parts of that compromise, which I think is great?
Yeah, I think, the gorgeousness of a well-told story, a properly structured story, is that it guides you by a tow rope, if we're going to use, our boat metaphor. So it takes you exactly where you need to go so that you fully comprehend. And I think grief is so murky that we wanted to drop the audience into what Ian, Chris Stack, is experiencing and say, can you sit with somebody else's pain? Like, how long can we stretch that? How long can we ask or enlist an audience to not use art as an escape from what they're feeling, but to sit at a table with it? Because I think we're all holding a lot in our brains, and sometimes we go to art as an escapist. I sort of go like, distract me, take me away from the thing, or make it be linear and clean and clear because I feel muddy in my own life. And we wanted to create an experience where your own life could come in to the theater and sit next to you in the dark. And you're watching this other person in their journey, and your journey doesn't stop for that to happen. So can we have both at the same time? And then, because I act in it as well, you're like, I think we were trying to do that as a collective on the set too. Can we all, who we are, can it come into the thing? Can we be both one and another? There's no single person on this team that didn't wear multiple hats. All of our producers are in as cast. I am traditionally an actress, and I came on to sort of help write and direct. And we're all sort of juggling identities and letting that duality of experience be present on screen. And we wanted that to be true for the audience as well, if that makes sense.
Definitely makes sense. Chris, to you, how do you hold these thoughts, these emotions in your brain and body is it a lot easier than an outsider like me would think, where you shoot, you wear multiple hats, and when the camera's off, everything is fine and dandy? Am I assuming? Or is it much more complex than that? Because it's a very real performance as well as yours, Sam. But question to you, Chris, on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is yes. All of those things that you said, it's thankfully, as the producer, my producing partners took that hat away from me right before we started shooting, so I didn't have to wear that hat while we were shooting. Also, I feel that the way that the story is written and the way that it's structured is that you are, I'm not, the grief is active, none of the grief is, none of the grief is passive. None of the grief is, there's no, it's all kinetic. There's a lot of motion. And so for me, trying to move forward is an active way of resisting all of the things that then come to bear. I think kind of through the process of performance and through the process of like watching the movie. And also, I don't know what this says about me, but I like to experience all of that stuff. I like to experience life through my art. I like my life to be one way, and I like my art to be a different way. And I like my process as an artist to be another way entirely. And it's deeply personal, and it is made up of all of those elements of my life as a person, as a partner, as a father, as a friend, and they all come to bear then on the thing that you're making. And thankfully it's with people like Sam and Daniel, who I just adore on a personal level, on a professional level, and whom I trust implicitly to kind of even if it's not like, no, take me somewhere, it's just like, well, let's go someplace together. So all of these experiences, while trying, are deeply enjoyable to me.
Yeah, I have one last question.
I'll quote Daniel, and he has a phrase that he says that the no one fights up harder than the drowning swimmer. And I think that's what Chris brought to that role so beautifully, is that Ian is, as someone who is that locked down, he's actually really actively trying to find his way out of that labyrinth.
Yeah.
And I think Chris does a beautiful job of that.
And very quickly, final question, Sam, just kind of the reactions you've been getting from your film, because this movie asks you to recall a very pivotal part in your life and how that part is still living with you. So just wondering about that dialogue from people who've seen the movie, and that must mean a lot to you, Daniel, Chris, and the entire cast and family of this. So
it's enormously rewarding. You go sort of down into the hole when you make the thing, and you're never quite sure how it will be received. And it's been really, really emotional to give it back to audiences and to watch the surprise, that people have echoed back to us. Is just really, really touched, really moved, really. They're finding it to be a really unique experience to sit with a film and have their own lives come and sit in the dark next to them, and to be given permission to, like, for this 88 minutes, feel whatever you feel in the dark of a theater. It's safe.
Yeah,
thank you both for. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
It's also really just I want to express our gratitude that it is being seen by people, and that filmmaking and art making is a deeply personal process, but there is a level of commerce to it, and that commerce is necessary to get it to people. And we are really lucky that Good Deed has picked us up and is going to show us to folks, so that we get to talk to people like you, Greg, who have seen and experienced the movie and have thoughts and feelings and questions about it. And yeah, it's absolutely right. Like, it's deeply rewarding to be able to talk to people who have seen it, because we talk to each other about doing it while we were doing it, and after we were done, and we're like, wow, that was really cool, that was really X, Y, and Z. And now people get to see it, and they come to us And we're like, oh yeah, that like I guess that's why we did it too. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you both for helping me process my trauma. So really appreciate that. Thank you
You're
so much.
welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, that was good.
Take care, guys. Appreciate
Nice
it.
to meet you.
Pleasure.